Should we just start with a big one?
What's the big one?
Glass.
Do your thing.
Glass. M. Night
Shyamalan.
Shyamalan. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that was it.
Damn.
Glass. M. Night Shyamalan's third entry into his East Rail 177 trilogy. That's what people are calling it. That's not what he calls it.
What the fuck? That's a mouthful.
Because I know, because of the train.
Too many syllables, dude.
That's Unbreakable and the standalone sequel Split. Now it's all together. And okay, when I was highly anticipating this film, okay, because I was rooting for Shyamalan. I don't like to diss film directors. I don't like to diss Shyamalan. Because I think the guy can make some really good films. The guy has made some great films, you know? So I was really rooting for this film. And overall, this film disappointed me. Big time.
Shocker.
The film, first of all, I texted you right after I came out of this film. I have never seen a film drop the ball this hard at the end of the film.
And I've been waiting patiently since then to know what the fuck happened.
Yes. Well, I can't really tell you without spoiling it.
You can tell me after the movie.
Here's the thing. Here's the crazy part, dude. First of all, this movie stars Bruce Willis, James McAvoy, and Samuel L. Jackson reprising their roles as David Dunn and Mr. Glass, and Kevin Wendell Crumb, a.k.a. the Beast, or the Horde, as he's also called. This film starts off really good. It starts off with a cool reintroduction to David Dunn's character and what he's been up to and what he's doing, and the first act ends with a really cool action scene that between the Beast and David Dunn that's actually filmed really well, and that's surprisingly filmed really well. Because, as you know, M. Night Shyamalan is not the best at filming action. You know, let me just look at The Last Airbender, you know what I mean? He's not the best at filming action. So when that action scene happened, and it was actually really well done, I was like, wow, okay, this is going to go somewhere. So, anyway, the acting is pretty good for the most part, especially for McAvoy, who steals the show. The cinematography by, what's his name, Michael Giononis or something, he's Greek. He really knows how to frame scenes and light them really well. He has a really cool style to him, and I really enjoy it. So the performances are good, the cinematography is good, and there are elements of genius in this film, dude. There are elements and questions asked within this film that are really cool and make you think, and I'm like, this is what I like the story to be about. The first act is set up, and it ends with a really cool fight scene. The second act, as you saw in the trailer, they're all in like a mental institution, which I thought was a really cool element. And it's kind of exploring the idea of superheroes and whether or not these characters really are superheroes. Because Sarah Paulson's character comes in and kind of says, no, these can be explained through science. You guys are not superheroes. This is a delusion. You know, there are strong men in the circus who can lift just as much as you. You know, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that's a really cool question to pose. And then they start doubting themselves, too. What the fuck? Am I a superhero? Am I not? That's great. I thought this was awesome. And at this point, I was thinking to myself, what are people not liking about this film? Is this going to be a film that I like and everyone else hates? Because I'm really liking what I'm seeing so far. There's a couple awkward moments of dialogue here and there. You know, the classic Shyamalan overwriting. Like the as you know dialogue. Like, as you know, your wife died 7 years ago of leukemia. It's like, Shyamalan, you don't need to.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. Shyamalan does that a lot where he overwrites and there's a lot of exposition. It's like, Shyamalan, don't tell us. Show us. And there are some scenes in here, I won't spoil that, where he does do that. And he uses visuals to show you how to feel instead of telling you how to feel. And a lot of times he's telling you how to feel. But for the most part, I could overlook it, right?
Okay.
So, M. Night was back, dude. New M. Night, the comeback M. Night was back, dude. It was like first down, 10 yards away from the touchdown. Freaking, he fucking spiraled that shit right into the end zone, right? It was like we were there, dude. Game, set, match, dude, done. And then old Shyamalan had to come back and intercept that shit, dude, because the ending was, in my opinion, abysmal. Dude, okay, when I say ending, I mean the third act. Okay, because the first two acts I thought were actually pretty great. And then the third act happens, and I'm like, what did you do? Why did you do this?
I have to know, dude.
First of all,
dying.
There is a twist. There is a twist. I won't spoil. That comes out of absolutely nowhere, and it just doesn't make sense. I understand what he was trying to do. I understand it because, again, he explains it because he has to, right?
But it's some dumb shit like the therapist is a superhero.
That's not the case, but you're not that far off. I'm being real. I'm being real. So I understand what he was trying to do because, again, he tells us, he explains what he's trying to do. So I get what you're trying to do, but it comes out of nowhere. There's no build up, and then it goes on for way too long, and I'm like, this just derailed everything. The East 177 or whatever it's called was derailed, bro. You derailed.
That actually did happen though.
I know it did.
It was foreshadowing.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh god, there's so much to talk about. Point is, the ending of the film is what really derailed it for me. Also, a couple other things that I didn't like. Bruce Willis, why is he still even acting?
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care about anything. I thought he would at least somewhat care about this film because this film is sort of tied to his legacy more than, like, I don't know, The Last Boy Scout or something. You know? This film I feel like he would try because he's friends with Shyamalan. He doesn't care, dude. He sleepwalks through the entire performance. And in all honesty, David Dunn is kind of sidelined. So if you're expecting a real sequel to Unbreakable, David Dunn is actually kind of underutilized and kind of sidelined. There are many times in this film where you kind of forget he's in it. You're like, oh my god, like Bruce Willis hasn't been in this film for like 20 minutes. You know, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This really is kind of more Split-centric. You know? Also, characters like Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Casey from Split, Bruce Willis's son from Unbreakable is back, and the mother from Unbreakable is also back, Mr. Glass's mom.
But do they even matter?
They are borderline useless in this film. They're borderline useless. They just show up to basically just stand around.
Yep.
And if you see the film, you know especially what I'm talking about. In the third act, they're just standing around. Like, what is the point of these characters? I will say also, James McAvoy, although he gives a great performance, it's not as subtle as it was in Split. I remember in Split, there's a scene in therapy, if you remember, where he changes personalities so subtly. And he's Dennis, but he's pretending to be Barry. And it's like a layer. It's like Inception of like DID. It's like insane, right? Mm-hmm. This one, when he changes a personality, he goes full blown like, yeah, exactly. Like there's a transition to every personality.
Like somebody flipped the channel.
Yeah, literally too. Which I didn't mind the literally part, but it's kind of revealed in the trailer. But I still don't want to spoil it.
The light. Or
yeah, the light. Like they use lights to like kind of change his personality. So whenever there's a dangerous one, they flash him, and then he changes personalities. So that's like his weakness, right? So that part I thought was pretty cool. However, I don't know if this would be a spoiler, so I'm not going to say it. But there's a point where they could have utilized that technology toward the end, and they just don't. And in the back of my head, I was thinking, why are you guys not just doing the same thing you did in the beginning of the film?
Zapping his bitch ass.
Why aren't you zapping his bitch ass? Like, that's a plot hole, but whatever. I will say this, though. There was a really amazing scene a couple amazing scenes between the girl from Split and James McAvoy. Really tender moments with, like, really good dialogue, and that's the M. Night I want to see, dude.
But that's kind of weird, because it didn't feel tender by the end of that
No,
movie.
it didn't, but it works in this film, though. It kind of works, in my opinion. I mean, you might not feel that way when you see it.
If I see it.
But I thought that was actually some of the heart of the film, was her character and him, even though she was kind of useless. There's shades of greatness in this film, dude. That's what pisses me off. This film is not bad. It's not horrible. It's just frustrating because the first two acts, in my opinion, were really good. And then the third act just derailed everything. And I've been looking up reviews, and that's what a lot of people have been saying, that the ending ruined it for them. And I think when they say ending, they mean the last third act. Because the climax, you've seen it in the trailer, you can kind of assume that there's going to be a big fight scene, right?
Yep.
That, again, that's M. Night Shyamalan going back to his thing of, I don't know how to film action. That action scene is filmed very poorly, which is very strange because the beginning action scene was actually pretty well done, and then he tries to do like a bigger action scene, and it's just not well done. It's just not filmed well. It's just filmed very awkwardly, and there's a lot of awkward moments, awkward dialogues. There's character revelations that... There's a couple twists, actually. There's a character revelation that comes out of absolute nowhere that just didn't need to be there. And the thing about Shyamalan is, like, when Unbreakable came out, comic books were a niche thing. And they didn't want Unbreakable to be marketed as a comic book thing because they viewed that as a detriment to the film's marketing. And that's crazy how times have changed now, right?
Yeah.
So when that film came out, it was sort of a new idea to explore comic books in a real literary, artistic light. To be like, no, this is a parallel to the real world, and that this is like an allusion to the real world suffering of this and human consciousness and stuff. It was really cool to see comic books portrayed as something deeper than what they are on the surface, right? Mm-hmm. He tries to do that again here, but it just doesn't work because we're in the superhero comic book renaissance now, and we know this now. So now
he knows it now.
Yeah, he knows it. We know it. So now it's like, now it just seems like he's giving us a lecture on it. You know what I mean? Because comic books are like the human condition.
And how much fucking do you know about the comic books to begin with? How are you going to fucking lecture
Right. No, so we all know this. So now it just seems very like, pot calling the kettle black sort of thing. It's like, yeah, dude, we know what you're telling us. You don't need to re-explain it to us.
Yeah.
You know? I was really frustrated with this film, and I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, which is like right down the middle. And then I went back and thought I was being too hard on it because I had such a bad taste in my mouth from the ending that the first 2 acts I did think were pretty well done. And it's definitely nowhere near as bad as some of Shyamalan's other works. And because Shyamalan to me is the epitome of hit and miss. When he misses hard. But when he hits hard as well. You know, there's really no in-between for him.
Okay.
At least with me. I think Glass is really the first in-between film that he's ever done for me. So I kind of went back and gave it a 3-star because it was enjoyable for the first 2 acts, but I'm really flip-flopping between 2.5 to 3. You know, so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Sounds like a 2.5 to me.
Yeah, it's kind of a 2.5, especially if he changed that third act. If the third act was changed, this would have been a 4-star for me, dude. I'm telling you. But it wasn't. That third act really derailed it, and then it went on way too long. Oh, and another thing. Mr. Glass's motivation. Remember how you told us when we reacted to the trailer, I hope his motivation is not only this? It's only that. Yep, that is only that. And I'm like, come on. And then at the very end, I won't spoil it for you, but there's something that happens and a scene that happens where everyone's reacting to a certain thing that happened on the internet. And you can tell that this was written by someone who just doesn't understand the internet. It's like, that's not how the internet works. That's just not
I've seen that type of thing happen so many times.
Yeah, and this is no exception. Something happens at the end where you're like, no, that just wouldn't happen that way.
I don't know why writers don't just team up with people that actually understand it. Like, is this how it would work?
Yeah.
Is this funny in internet culture? No.
But there are moments of greatness in the film sprinkled throughout. That's why it's so frustrating to me. So overall, this film is a 2.5 out of 5 for me. It was good. It was decent, but not good, not great. But it wasn't terrible, and it's nowhere near as bad as some of Shyamalan's other works. It's definitely watchable. Like, you would watch it, and like you wouldn't be bored or anything. But
that's happened many a times.
That ending really derailed it for me. It's been a while since I've seen a film really derail at the end like that.
I really kind of am interested now, just because I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, you should see it. I mean, you can go ahead and watch it.
Oh, man.
You gotta know how the trilogy ends. Oh, another thing I want to mention.
Oh.
One of the characters gets... The end of his arc is stupid as hell. I won't say who, but there's a character in this film where he goes out like an absolute bitch. I'm like, really? That's the way he's gonna go out? I'm like, okay.
Interesting.
And I'm not gonna tell you what I mean by go out, but you'll know when you see it. You'll be like, what the hell, dude? So, yeah, this was a huge disappointment for me. But it's a January movie.
Yes! I was wondering that the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is this getting released in the graveyard month?
Yes.
What the hell?
Yes, that's why, dude.
Okay.
Oh, it sucks, man. I'm so
That tells me that they didn't have faith in it either.
No, they didn't. I was really rooting for Shyamalan, dude. I really was.
think a lot of people were.
Yeah, because he was on that comeback train. Dang it. Well, what can you do?
Yeah.